Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. We've spent a lot of time over the last couple episodes talking through all the cockamamie fan theories surrounding the avalanche of new content that was the end of 2021. Why? Well, because quite frankly, we have no originality. After some 80-something episodes, we are completely devoid of new ideas. We've peaked, folks. It was a nice ride, but it's all downhill from here. Anyways, we might as well coast along as long as possible and milk every last cent from this gimmick before we... excuse me, what's that? Really? Not even a couple cents from Spotify. Oh, well, I guess we'll just give our idiocy to the world for free. In this, episode 87, The Real or Jabroni Double Feature. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is a man who uses approximately 5 sticks of Old Spice extra strength per week just to cut down the steak smell from his constant meat sweats. He has been my partner in idiocy for over 2 decades, and fellow Mickey's Fine Malt Liquor connoisseur. I give you the man they call Tim.
Greetings and salutations, my friend. How are you, sir?
You know, I'm doing all right, but I was this close to once again waterboarding myself with my own saliva. I don't know what's going on.
I think you should see a doctor for that, sir.
My birthday's coming up in a couple months. Like I'm over the hump of my mid-40s, and all of a sudden now I have the saliva glands of a Saint Bernard. I don't know what the hell is going on with me. Yeah, I'm turning into Hooch from the movie. That's basically what my life is going to be. I'm just going to be drooling in a home by the time I'm 50. And You know what? Quite honestly, it's probably always been trending that way.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah. So you've survived the bulk of the holidays thus far, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did Santa bring you everything that you wanted?
Oh, very much so. I received some updated equipment. My eldest is taking the sound equipment I was using for this podcast back to school with him. So I was basically given a new set. And basically, I now have a setup that is WKRP in the basement. So,
I was going to say, you have your Dr. Johnny Fever starter set going, which is very nice. Did it come with the sunglasses and everything?
Well, I'm wearing glasses, not sunglasses, but my old man eyes need the glasses.
Oh, by the way, I actually ordered some new glasses today, and I was just unbelievably ecstatic. The fact that I have new glasses on the way, I was tickled when I got the confirmation text, and then I was even more tickled when they're like, "Ooh, they're in process." I'm like, "Oh, my new glasses are on the way," and I realized at that point, just somebody shoot me. It's over. When
I got the text, so this goes back about 3 weeks. When I got the text that the glasses were in, I was in the car right after dinner on my way to pick them up because I'm like, I need these. I'm getting so irritated with the fuzziness that's going on with my vision, and so I was equally ecstatic. And yes, there comes a point where you come down from the high and you're like, well, why is this so exciting to me?
Yeah. So for all the members of the Free Range Idiocy congregation out there, if you want to get in on the action about the office pool of who's going to be in adult diapers first, me or Tim, feel free to send those guesses to Tim at freerangeidiocy.com and submit your guesses now. Because I have a feeling it's not going to be all that long. As a matter of fact, one of us is probably going to poop our pants before the end of this show, quite honestly.
Oh, good Lord.
Dude, it's 50-50 every single time. You got to admit. I mean, we're hitting that age.
Yes.
We're hitting that age.
I know. I hear you. Do
Do you really, or do you need a hearing aid next?
No, I do hear you. I will say, and maybe this is more Week in Geek material, but I will say that I actually lived through today a segment that comes directly out of A Christmas Story. If you recall, in that film, the father has an ongoing war with the furnace in the basement. I went to swap out a headlight light within our Honda Fit, and if you've ever owned a Fit, you know that
good God, that has to be like the worst car in the world to do anything under the hood. There's like no hood.
Well, yeah, because there's no access to the lights from the normal, go into the engine area. You actually have to
you have to go through like the tailpipe.
You have to go in through the wheel well.
Oh, jeez.
So there was a lot of.
Did you at least record this for posterity?
No, but my neighbor's got an earful probably. So.
Oh, that's awesome! Oh my gosh!
I came in. And
the other thing is, what are you doing driving a Honda Fit? Like you're not like I'm not a very huge guy. Like you're taller than I am, and I can't even imagine myself being comfortable in a Honda Fit. How do you do that?
It's actually a very, very economical and good to drive car. It's like driving a go-kart. I like it.
I noticed that you don't say a thing about comfort.
It is comfortable. After you get done swearing, banging your knee and whatever, but
it's like sitting on a folding chair 1 inch above the ground. But
right.
It's great.
It's great. And now that I've changed the headlight, it's even better. So
now, like me, my car can see.
Oh my gosh.
I don't have Blinky, the Honda Fit anymore. Do you have the Bumpus Hounds running around out there too?
Probably. I just, they stayed away, thankfully. So
my favorite part of that movie, and it gets me every time, is when the father gets the telegram that he won the thing, and then he goes out and he's like, "Here, fellas, have a chew on me," and he puts his leg out there and lets the dogs gnaw on it, and then he slams the door, and the dog's ear is hung. He's like, "Serves you right, you dirty bugger!" And closes the door again.
We watched that movie on Christmas Eve, and when that part happened, we all just erupted. It was just like we've seen the movie a bunch of times, but for whatever reason, that part just hit us all the same way, and it was just really funny.
Oh, it's a classic. It's an absolute classic.
Gosh.
A classic
have a
moment.
On me. Have a chew on me, boys.
Classic moment within a classic movie. Never gets old, and we will all pretend that A Christmas Story 2 never happened.
Exactly.
You hear me? It never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Much like Titanic 2 and the second and third Matrix movies, never happened. Anyways,
indeed.
Now that we come to an uncomfortable end to our intro, just you got anything? Nope, I ain't got nothing.
I was waiting for you to transition us, my friend.
Next. And now, in place of this segue, allow me to tap dance. That's apparently what we're going to do.
Cha-cha-cha-cha.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see what we have going on in the Week in Geek. I notice there's not a whole lot on the outline, but let's see what we got going on here, sir. What do you got?
Week in Geek.
Feels so funky.
Well, after last episode's Week in Geek, I figured we had about 2 episodes worth of content.
I'm so ashamed of that, too. I had the reins, and I managed to drive it even further than you did. It was a great failing on my part.
But I figured, it wouldn't be the Week in Geek in the towards the end of 2021 here as we round out this year and start to fire up the engines for 2022 to once again revisit our fantasy football 2021 campaign.
Whoa! Time out!
Yes,
We're not firing up any engines for 2022. All right, and there's no firing of engines. Keep the car in park. Your hands inside the vehicle. Nobody touch nothing. All right. Nobody is seizing the year. This is not. No one has vision for 2022. Just everybody keep your mouth shut at midnight on December 31st. Zip it. Nothing. I don't want anything. We're gonna walk into this one nice and calm. All right.
Here's Uncle Todd on the first day of 2022.
Pretty much. That's like 12:01. As I slam my finger in a drawer or something. Slam my finger in a drawer, step on the cat's tail, trip, get hit in the head with a whiskey bottle, and that's how I die. And yet again, my family, pretty much the way we thought it would go.
There it is.
Pretty much.
There it is. Well, we did have over the weekend contested the third of the Idiot Bowl series, brought to you by, we're still working on some sort of sponsor for that. But
nobody
nonetheless,
is sponsoring this. Nobody whatsoever. Like, even off-brand Preparation H isn't getting any piece of this. We couldn't get anything. Nothing at all.
Well, yours truly was facing off against Uncle Todd in a semifinal matchup in our Fantasy Football Championship Series. And it was a bit of an awkward and kind of strange weekend. Sadly, COVID is kind of making its rounds more so than, I don't know, before apparently. Impacting both of our teams.
Wow, that's some analysis you had going right there.
Did you
get a briefing from Dr. Fauci before you went
I was choosing my words carefully. All
right, just want to make sure.
But, both of us had players who ended up being sidelined due to COVID. We had, I think on your side, you had one that was committed to the IR. And so it just kind of threw our lineups into a bit of a tizzy. But have no fear, folks, because at the end of the day, the man they call Tim was able to, I wouldn't say squeak out a victory. It wasn't a blowout, but it wasn't a squeaker either. So, 182 to 166, I believe that is a final. I don't think we have any other players remaining to go. But I do want to call out especially the New England Patriots defense. Want to thank them for showing up and almost going into negative territory, basically netting 0 points for the week against the Buffalo Bills, making me sad not just once but twice. So,
what the heck you got going on in the background? You have a sailor
machine
doing a hornpipe? What the crap
kind of.
Is that?
Yeah, it's Patrick.
Oh, he's at your house now? Thank God. I haven't been in the office for a couple of weeks here, and I'm just I shudder to think about what's. It's good to know that he's there and tending to your stuff now. Enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. But sir, both of our quarterbacks were kind of mediocre this week. We had a couple highlights in the wide receiver department and maybe a highlight in the running back department, but otherwise, it was a pretty pedestrian week for both of us, with me just kind of having just enough points to stay ahead. So, what say you, sir?
I just want to say I threw this thing. I took a dive.
I appreciate it.
I was trying to just eliminate this segment, so I just wanted to let everybody know that I took this hit for them, so that we no longer have to talk about fantasy football for the rest of the year.
Oh, we'll talk one more time.
Or ever again.
One more time.
Oh, are you serious, dude?
It'll be the finals.
There's only one of us in it, though. Nobody even cares when both of us are in it.
Oh, this is a highly rated segment in this show. So,
oh, you looked at the quarter hours, really?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Great.
And yes.
And I just want to also say two reasons why this thing kind of went south on me. First of all, because Yahoo was giving me all this grief, because I knew that Godwin from Tampa Bay was on the IR, but for some reason it wasn't letting me put him on the IR, even though the little IR thing was there. And it's like, you can't put him on the IR. He's not on the IR. Like, there's a little thing there that says, you put him on the you have him listed as on the IR. Let me put him on the IR. You can't put him on the IR because he's not on the IR. I'm like, all right. So I left it, and then I thought, you know what? I'll deal with this tomorrow. That was like Wednesday.
No,
and Christmas Eve, Christmas, family, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Was I thinking about any of that? No. So I completely missed that one. And then, of course, Dalvin Cook, of course, one last just middle finger to me this season. He's already done it several times. Of course he gets COVID as I'm going into the playoffs.
Jeez.
Well wishes. I hope he's okay and all that. But, man, it was just another one of those, and you know what? One more. And the funny thing is, again, because I was, I was trying to do family stuff, and fantasy football, quite honestly, is not even on my radar. But the funny thing is, had I actually gone with the ideal lineup that I could have, I could have taken you by like 3 points.
Yes. Yeah.
But the problem is, it would have involved me starting Ryan Tannehill. And that's just something I've sworn that I would not do anymore. I'm off the Tannehill roller coaster. But of course, everybody on my team underperformed. So it was it's one of those deals where I'm like, meh. What are you going to do?
I actually started Stafford this week because when I read about Tampa Bay and some of the injuries and, COVID and everything with their offense, there was a question of, like, who is Brady really going to throw to? And so I actually put Stafford in, and it turned out to be a push. I mean, Brady did 1 point better than him, but it wasn't like it was like he put up 70 and I'm like kicking myself for not starting him. It was pretty much, what you would expect.
Yeah, our teams are fairly pedestrian, except for a couple guys who, one guy in particular, two guys from in particular overperformed. My man, Mark Andrews from Baltimore had himself another day. 125 yards, 1 receiving touchdown, 8 receptions. I mean, just outstanding numbers for a tight end.
And then, of course, next year, sir, he's a keeper for next year,
which is very odd. Like, that's not usually like, ooh, I got to make sure I hang on to that tight end. Usually not a position that you think about that, but of course, I'm not playing next year, so I could get a crap less.
I was trying to see if I would get a commitment out of you, but no, look at that.
No. And then Devonta Adams had himself another day, of course, and had himself 33 points, 114 yards, 2 TDs, 10 receptions. Of course, it was all for naught because I had 2 goose eggs at wide receiver and running back. And folks, that just don't work no matter who else overperforms. So it was that was the story of me.
So
and
a good the Idiot Bowl cup, which I don't know quite what that is.
It's like a Dixie cup that's been in a drainage ditch for like 2.5 months. Like a raccoon's peed on it. That's basically
accept my award as the idiot.
You better wear some gloves when you accept that award. Get hepatitis type, like M.
Oh, good Lord. The idiot extraordinaire this year in our
herpes simplex 133
in our league. So,
not to mention rabies.
That's never good. That's never good.
And a really annoying sniffle.
Yes.
Like that. The sniffle that you get that's like you take cold medicine and yet it still doesn't go away. You've got just enough to be annoying. Just enough. Not enough to make it like a full-blown cold, like nothing you could actually stay home with, but just enough to make you just be like, it's annoying all day long. That's what you're going to get from that Dixie cup.
Yep. So, with the Idiot Bowl series in the books, we move on. One last item, and then we will wrap this up. During Christmas, our family, as a family gift, we got a book. It will be my and another thing for later. Obsessed with Star Wars. Test your knowledge of a galaxy far, far away. 2,500 questions in this book.
Good sweet Lord.
And let me, I will just randomly open up and read a question. We'll see how good Uncle Todd is.
Was this authored by the guys from the scruffy looking podcasters?
No, this is authored by Benjamin Harper.
Oh, okay. Sounds like a good solid name.
So the questions can go as deep as this. How many nostrils do, hold on a second. Let me see.
Say what?
Yeah, I got to hold this up because I don't have, okay. How many nostrils do Ongri like Jedi Master Pablo Jill have? A2, B6, C9, or D4? How many nostrils? Take a guess.
Can I phone a friend? Like what?
Phone a friend.
It's kind of the thing is like
Jimmy Dice, where are you?
I always kind of take pride in my knowledge of trivia, and here it's like, man, if someone had a gun to my head and this is the question, I'm dead. I'm a dead man. My brains are all over the wall.
So I don't even
I'm
know
gonna go with 9.
So you're going to go with 9. That is incorrect. It was D, 4. 4 nostrils.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who, what type of an alien an Ongri is, and I don't know who Jedi Master Pablo Jill is either. So I would have also been guessing on this one.
Well, it's a creature with 4 nostrils. I mean, duh.
I know.
What are you, some kind of noob?
Let's see.
You could go for another one here. This is the make Uncle Todd look stupid segment, which is actually the entire show. So by all means, proceed.
Let's see. According to Anakin Skywalker, from what nightmare did he rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi? A nest of Gundarks, B, a nest of crate dragons, C, a nest of dewbacks, or D, a nest of Tusken Raiders. Is it Gundarks, crate dragons, dewbacks, or Tusken Raiders? What, according to Anakin, from what nightmare did he rescue Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Dewbacks.
That would be incorrect. It was a nest of Gundarks.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, gosh. Who doesn't know that besides me? Oh, wait, the office is calling.
There is that phone a friend.
I love how you still have a landline. It is that is like one of my new things, because I mean, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the man they call Tim, very tech savvy gentleman. Like this is your thing, and yet it sounds like you have like the phone that was the next phone after the rotary dial hanging in your kitchen. Like it still has a cord.
That's
you know. So you can only go like 9 feet away, and it's all gnarled up. So you can really only go like 1.5 feet because you can't untangle the thing.
You get kind of jerked back towards where the base is.
Exactly. You're like, yeah.
Well, anyways, with our upcoming episodes, I think Uncle Todd and I will need to consider a contest of sorts to see who has the most knowledge or most luck in terms of guessing.
Hell
the
no.
Number of nostrils that
there's
going to
be no bourbon on the line for this because it's just not happening.
All right.
The only kind of whiskey will be like Fireball, because I can send you like a 97-cent nip.
There you go. It
would cost more in postage to send it than it does to actually buy the dang thing.
Agreed. But maybe we should, for the Week in Geek, now that fantasy football will be winding down, maybe this can take its place. We can do like 5 questions.
Great. Another segment that nobody gives a crap about leading off the show. That'd be great. That'd be great. Let's make the show more user unfriendly. Yes, by all means. All right. Whatever. I'm tired tonight. I don't care. Sure.
All right, next episode we'll do the Fast 5. We'll get some 5 questions queued
up. The Fast 5. You've already got a name for it. Oh my gosh!
Right. Boom. All right, and
actually, no. It should be called the Red 5, shouldn't it?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Who's your Star Wars trivia guy now? Huh? Come at me, bro.
All right. Well,
Gundark, whatever.
Study your alien species nostril count, and we'll see who wins.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
And with that, that, my friends, is the under 30-minute version of The Week in Geek.
It only took like 30 episodes, but we finally achieved our goal.
Victory is mine.
Well, let's not get too, you're still batting pretty low. I mean, you're down like Bob Uecker territory right now. Don't celebrate yet. Anyways, we decided after doing about 18 or 20 Real and Jabroni episodes in the last like 3 weeks that we would actually try and condense a couple of these, because we've got some results to get to, and we also have some reactions to get to. So we talked. This episode is a double feature. We're going to talk about Spider-Man. Yeah, that's great. Spider-Man: No Way Home, and also Matrix Resurrections, and we're going to kind of give our thoughts on them, find out who managed to sift their way through all of the fan theories and get down to what is the real and what is the jabroni the best, and see who gets themselves a couple bottles of bourbon here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off with in chronological order, because that's how you so helpfully put it on the outline. Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes.
Now, jeez. Two movies here that kind of were all about bending reality in their own way.
Yes.
So what were your main thoughts on this, sir?
I thought it was, again, just a very well put together story. When you and I were talking about this, we had, kind of the phrase that kept getting thrown around in our conversations was, there was that opportunity for things to go off in a not so great direction, and they avoided it. You know what I mean? And it was very focused storytelling. Clearly from our Real and Jabroni picks, didn't nearly go into any of the areas that we were thinking it might.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 0 Kirsten Dunst sightings.
0. And
none.
Pretty
Not
much,
even a mention, really.
Oh my gosh. I mean, at least there was somewhat of a mention from Electro about, he didn't say Miles Morales, but I think the implication was, when he was talking about there being a black Spider-Man, about, Miles Morales.
That was a little wink to the fans. But
exactly. Like at least there was a hint of that. There was no Kristen Dunst at all.
Not even a whiff.
Oh my gosh. Venom was an interesting appearance that happened. It was
my gosh, that was such like a troll move on Marvel and Sony's behalf that I can't even be mad at him, because I'm like, all right, sure, well done. I mean, you got me, but also managing to artfully play the fans, but also manage to get symbiotes into the MCU.
Yep.
Or at least leave that door open without having to tie Tom Hardy and Venom per se directly to it.
Right.
Which I do appreciate that, because it does then allow you to keep these universes separate in some way, which is interesting. It would be kind of cool if they were all together, but I mean, we're also seeing like the possibility that this could happen again. So, I mean, nothing's completely off the table, but well done.
Yeah, but I thought, the whole the way they wove Doctor Strange kind of into and out of the story was well done. I really thought the way that they brought Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in was really ingenious with having what's his name, Ned, using the sling ring to kind of try to bring.
Totally didn't see that coming.
No.
Totally, but it was so great, great.
It was, and so well done, and done with depth, because it was great to see the way they kind of brought them in and have have those two past Spider-Man, kind of talk him through his grief and kind of share their experiences and use their backstory as a way to kind of add some depth to, let's be honest, seeing something play out that we've seen play out 2 other times, but play out in a very different way. And, and so I thought it was really well done. I thought they handled, May's death with the right treatment and leading it to, and I loved how they also kind of played with that idea of him, be teetering on the edge of vengeance and, really requiring those other two to really kind of help, balance him out and help him avoid going down a very dark path, and that sort of thing. And so, so overall, I mean, I think it was just a really, from beginning to end, just a well done story. And it wasn't overdone. It wasn't, like we had some stuff about the multiverse in here and stuff like that didn't come into play, and it didn't need to come into play. I will stand here today and say I will not do another Mephisto reel for the rest of this year. I guess that only means 4 days, but
although we did have another 6 episodes of Real or Jabronis planned. So, yes. There's still time.
That is true.
Just putting that out there.
But yes, I incorrectly selected a number of things. Oh, and then the lack of Sinister Six. The fact that they had, all those villains lined up, but it wasn't really about them coming in and doing any sort of damage. It was interesting, to kind of see the Spider-Man work toward the long-term or kind of ideal goal that they were all shooting for, which was to try to help, these individuals and have that be kind of the focus. So I thought that was, I thought it was really cool that they kind of went down that road as opposed to it being some sort of coordinated, concerted, super lineup of villains to kind of take on, the Spider-Man, even though there was a smidge of that, as part of the finale. So, yeah. So overall, really good. And of course, I got to say, really love the kind of, running into battle sequence with the three of them, web slinging off of each other and kind of hitting the pose before going into battle. So that was just fantastic.
Yeah, all of that was great, and I agree. I've seen. I don't know if I'd go quite as far as in terms of effusive praise as I've seen from some folks on Facebook saying, "Oh, this is the most fun Marvel movie ever, greatest Marvel movie ever." I'm like, okay, rein it in a little bit. It was really good. It was really good, and I think that all of the Spider-Man movies from this era, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, have all been really good. And again, I think it comes down to the fact that they just got it right. They just got it right.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's not forget, like, they didn't get Spider-Man really right until Sony kind of went to Marvel and was like, okay, fine, you can play with your toy again, And then we kind of get Spider-Man the way that I think most fans have wanted him. And maybe didn't know it back in the day because we didn't have the MCU and all that. But I think that they really got the tone of Spider-Man correct. And I think part of that comes from the fact that he exists in this world with other heroes, so that I think there's a little comparison necessary for Spider-Man to really exist. He doesn't exist singularly the way you can with, like, Superman. Yeah. Superman can exist without any other superheroes because he's Superman. It does everything and all. Like Spider-Man requires a little bit of perspective because you need to understand, like, kind of he's still a kid, and he's going to make mistakes, and he does these things, and you see that in comparison to other superheroes, and how he doesn't act, and how he's not really uber cool like Tony Stark, or like some of these other heroes. He's a dork. And you don't get that unless you have the perspective of other heroes existing in that world. So I think that helps enormously.
Yeah.
And I think the direction has been great. I think the writing has been great. Acting has been great. I have zero complaints for any of these movies or any of the appearances that Spider-Man has had in the MCU. So it was great there. I think they did like you said, with Ned discovering he could use Doctor Strange's sling ring was awesome. Especially the fact that the whole scene where we see Andrew Garfield get pulled into the MCU, and then the whole interaction with Ned's was his grandmother, right?
Right. That was hysterical.
And she says to can you get that spider web up in the corner while you're up there? That was like, it's so great, and how like all of a sudden, like, Andrew Garfield's like, oh yeah, I'll put this, and it starts straightening all this stuff up that he's messed up. And she's like, I'm going to bed. I was like, it was such a great scene, but it also gave you a lot of, like, character building in that little scene. And it was very efficient storytelling, and they had to, because of just the sheer number of characters that you're going to have in this movie. And they did it very efficiently, gave everyone a little bits of business. Might have gotten a little goofy in some places, but then again, that's been the vibe for these Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Is that they have been a little goofy. And I think that's good. It's okay to have fun,
Right.
Otherwise, you wind up in the DC universe where everything is, it's gritty and dark and okay, that's great, but I don't want that all the time. I mean, crap.
Or like, Mortal Kombat, fatality times 10.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was great. I thought the way they brought in Tobey Maguire again was great. And I mean, I'd never seen any of the Andrew Garfield movies. I was like, oh wow, he's not as terrible as what I thought he was going to be. Then again, maybe he wasn't as good in the movies. I don't know. I thought his Spider-Man all three of them had their own little bits of turf and three very distinct characters. And that was great that they managed to make them complement each other, but yet you never lost track of which one was which.
Right.
You never were like, oh, well, he's just basically, they're all acting the same.
Right.
They each had enough personality differences that you never lost track of where any of them were in the story or where the lines were between the characters. And that was very important for this. Very important because you've got 5 other movies besides the Tom Holland movies here. So, I mean, you have to give those characters some weight and respect. And I think they did that and did it really well.
Well, and you know, when you were talking about Andrew Garfield, I thought one scene in particular, which was great, was when MJ is falling and Tom Holland's Spider-Man can't, save her.
Yeah.
And you see Andrew Garfield do the dive and save her. But then there's like that emotional part at the afterward where he's just like this was kind of not so much redeeming him, because I don't know that, as a hero, when you can't, make a save or if there's a mistake like that happens where you there's a life that you can't save. It's I have a hard time calling that a mistake, but clearly that weighed heavily upon him. And so for him to stand, for them to, like you said, kind of respect each of the different Spider-Man backstories and kind of have him do that and be emotional about it afterward. Like he realized he was doing something, almost in a way to kind of make up for that was really, just like you just said, being respectful of the characters and kind of honoring, the backstory of what had been established up to that point.
Yeah. It was a measure of redemption. It wasn't complete redemption, but it's a measure of redemption, which is what you wanted for that character. I mean, even not knowing, having not seen the 2 movies with Garfield in them, and another thing they did really well is catching you up on those. And again, Marvel has done, and Feige has done an excellent job with this in all of the Marvel movies of kind of discerning what fans want to see and then what casual viewers need to have.
Right. Yeah.
And not overboard explaining and all that, giving you just enough background and giving fans or viewers enough credit or enough credit for their intelligence that, okay, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
But yet also giving enough little Easter eggs and enough little bit of business that if you're a real fan, you're like, oh yeah, that. It does such a great job balancing all that. And I got that with Andrew Garfield, like very quickly kind of was like, oh, I get it. Kind of get this character. And so even as someone who had never seen him in that role, that never seen those movies, I had an emotional response to him in that moment. Like, oh, good for him, man. And then I'm like, I don't even, I just met this character 40 minutes ago. No idea who the crap he is.
Right.
But yet they made me care about him in that time. And that's not an easy thing to do. And they did it.
Yep.
And as a casual fan, and even the same thing with the Maguire Spider-Man. Like, I only saw the first 2 movies and I don't even really remember them that well.
Yeah.
And again, brought me right back to where he was at. And there was enough of him, even though, of course, he's older as an actor. The character is older. But there's enough there where you're like, yep, that's the kid grown up. Mm-hmm. Okay. And brings me right back there where at the end, I'm like, oh, man, sorry to see him go. Even though, again, I just got reintroduced to that character not that long ago. And they did a great job with that. Great job.
Oh, yeah. And I thought all the villains were great. I mean, I thought Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, again, put some respect on that.
Put some stank on it is what I will.
He was great. And
he was, it's like he hadn't lost a beat.
No, he doesn't. That's the other thing. Like, Willem Dafoe is one of those guys who, much like, he's one of those actors that no matter what the movie is, he's bringing his fastball. Now, the fastball might not have as much as it used to have, but he's giving you everything in it. Like, even in the Wes Anderson movies that he's been in, is it Wes Anderson? Fantastic Mr. Fox?
I think so.
Something Anderson. Anyways, the quirky movies that people either love or they absolutely despise. And he was in Grand Budapest Hotel. Grand Hotel whatever, the Budapest Hotel movie. You know what I'm talking. I like these movies, and yet I can't remember a single damn thing about him. It's fantastic. But he plays this character where he doesn't have that many lines, but the dude is just working it in every single scene that he is in. Mm-hmm. And it's just great. And he does that. And it was great in this. All the Jamie Foxx, you could tell he was kind of having a blast with this. Like, all right, I got some stuff to do. Like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then you have Octavius, who's great. And again, did a very good job of like just enough information to like casual fans, like, hey, this is this dude. Oh, okay. And the fans are like, oh yeah, and I remember this and that and the other. And they did that, balance that well. And again, each of them had their own little piece of turf, and just very economical and did it really well. Kind of got a little goofy in some spots, but like I said, that's kind of these movies, so I can't get upset about that. Mm-hmm. It was a fun ride overall. I mean, and I say that not in turn because we did have a somewhat major character death, so it's not like I'm saying, "Woo, Aunt May is dead, ding dong." No, it's not that. It was a fun ride in that you finish watching this movie and there's a bit of catharsis to it.
Yeah,
like you went on a journey. Yep. Through this. I mean, it was literally like I laughed, I cried. It was better than Cats, which quite honestly, that phrase doesn't matter anymore because everything is better than Cats. The movie. Oh
dear!
Did you know there was apparently somewhere out there? So the animated Cats movie based on the musical and all that, where they transformed all these. It's like one of those movies. You remember of years and years ago? I think it's like movie 42 or something. Like this director like tricked a whole bunch of famous people to being in a movie, and they all did like these scenes, and it kind of got splotched together. So on the video box, it has all these names, but they had no idea they were actually in this movie.
Oh wow!
And it's like they all got scammed into it. I kind of feel like that's what happened with Cats, because if you read who's in it, you're like, good Lord, what level of blackmail was involved here that you got all these people?
What did you have on them?
Yeah. But apparently there was at some point, because they're all like CGI'd up as cats. Like it's not just like the Broadway show where they put on like an outfit and they, like glued some fur to a leotard and called it good. Like they full on like CGI these things. There was a cut where they showed the cat's buttholes.
Oh,
because if you've owned a cat or you have lived with a cat at any point in your life, there is that moment when you've woken up and you are staring eye to eye.
Oh, jeez. This was not where I thought the conversation was going to go, but please continue.
With a cat's butt. It has happened at some point to every person who has lived with a cat.
Oh my gosh.
And it's traumatizing the first like 100 times it happens. And after that, you're like, this is my life. But you see oh my God. But that's a thing out there. So now it's like, everything is better than that. Mm-hmm. Good God. Anything.
Certainly.
And even Steven, well, maybe not Steven Seagal movies. I don't know.
All right, let's bring it back to Spider.
I kind of got lost, but anyways. So yeah, let's go back
before you go off on another tangent that's going to horrify me to my very core.
Right now, if there was conversational GPS, it would be going recalculating.
Stay on target.
Yeah.
That's what we need in the GPS. We got to have that guy stay on target.
Oh, that'd be great. Lighten up. Loosen up. That's right. And I like you mentioned, and this is one I believe that I got right from the Real and Jabronis that we did lose Aunt May.
Yes.
And it did make sense because it is like the emotional jolt that character needs without losing the friendship of MJ, without losing that idea of a future romance or the idea of that character doing something down the line. Whereas with Aunt May, Aunt May, I hate to say it, but the character had kind of served her purpose in the story. And really wasn't going to be too much more other than just someone who does stuff. And so I kind of saw that coming. It's kind of too bad to lose Marissa Tomei because she was really good in this as this character.
Yeah,
and it was an Aunt May that I did not expect, but yet was so awesome. I was like, yes, this is like the Aunt May I never knew that I wanted, but yes, cool.
And she uttered the line.
Yes. Oh, but yeah, that scene was freaking heartbreaking, dude.
Oh,
and then to see Happy's reaction to it. Again, like, I mean, there's times when you just kind of forget, like, Jon Favreau can act his ass off.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden he lays a scene like that on you with like no dialogue, and you're like, oh damn, I forgot, you're real good at this. Okay, right on, cool. But yeah, that was a gut punch. Even though I kind of saw it coming, it was still one of those things where like, oof,
yeah,
take the wind out of you.
Oh yeah.
But also done really well, and like you say, then was used to really take Tom Holland's character into a very dark place, into some very interesting places story wise, where you kind of legit didn't know where this was going, because there's
right.
You could see it going in a dark place, and then like, wow, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
and some weird stuff happening, but it didn't. And ultimately the entire movie kind of talked about redemption in one way or another, and it was so well done, I don't know that I'd say it's like my top Marvel movie, but it is definitely in the discussion for the top 5 right now, and more than likely it's in the top 5.
Yep. And I like the little detail too with when Tom Holland Spider-Man basically is at peace with everyone for basically getting his anonymity back, and I love that little touch with Doctor Strange where even he's getting a little emotional knowing that when he's done with this he's not going to know who he is.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was just a very nice touch to have, him who is normally a bit of a cynic and kind of a Tony Stark-esque,
I mean,
arrogant sort of guy, right?
Like Doctor Strange is probably the biggest cynic in the Marvel universe at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, he is not a let me pop up some sunshine and unicorns and rainbows for you here. Like he's like, nope, there's really bad crap.
Yeah.
Okay. Gee, thanks, Doc. Appreciate it. Great bedside manner you got there.
Oh yeah.
But that was great. And again, everybody kind of had an emotional arc, and even at the end, when you have Peter going to see MJ.
Yep.
And as much as you're like, no, it's got to work out. Like he's got to tell her, like he's got to this and that and the other. But yet I'm like, I know where he's going. With this. Like it is the only way that, it's that thing where it's like, if I truly love this person,
right,
and I truly love Ned, I truly love MJ, and I love them as people and as my friends, they can't be around me.
Right.
And it goes back to what Doctor Strange was saying. You're trying to lead these two lives.
Right.
And oh man, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, but that's kind of how that's the hero biz. Like we've seen this now a couple times. It doesn't work out well for heroes who start letting people know who they are. Just ask Tony Stark in Iron Man 3. It didn't, things kind of went sideways for him,
Yeah. 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 Especially when she brushes back her hair and you see that cut, on her, kind of on her temple there. And he sees that and he kind of folds his paper up like, yeah, we're not going to go down this road.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole personification of what you just said about, that's a very small example of she's going to get hurt if she knows who I am, sort of thing. And so I thought it was a very nice, subtle way to kind of make that point.
Yeah. And it goes back to the idea of responsibility. And, when you have responsibility, it's not fun. Responsibility is not fun a lot of the time. And a really not so fun moment there for him. But yet there is Tom Holland manages to kind of work a little bit of like, there's a bit of peace for the character.
Right.
In his performance as he's walking out, like there's a bit of peace. Like, okay, that's one thing I don't have to worry about now.
Right.
as heartbreaking as it is, it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about my friends being killed or taken hostage or whatever because they know me.
Right. One thing I was supremely disappointed by.
Oh boy. Because we didn't get a song out of Wong? Was that it?
No.
And by the way, can we find another way to refer to either Benedict Wong or Wong the character? Because I've seen it a couple times now in an article when they're like Benedict Wong's Wong. I'm like, dude, you got to find a better way to phrase that. Like,
yeah.
Like, come on, that's like the dumbest, laziest way that you can do that. I mean, come on, the man is a massive star of screen and stage, a well-rounded entertainer and sorcerer supreme. Come on now, like, find a better way to phrase that where it doesn't look like a typo.
Well, it has nothing to do with Wong. It's actually we did not see Paul Giamatti return as Rhino. And we did not see Sandman and Rhino leave for a wine-fueled week in Napa Valley with tomfoolery ensuing.
You can't always get what you want. Nick and the boys told us that many years ago. And
I know. You know, just thought I'd bring that up. But we have one final bit of business before moving on is what were the results of our reel and jabroni for this movie?
Yes.
And so,
did the dunce train completely derail the man they call Tim's chances at this?
Well, that was one point of derailment. The other point of derailment had to do with the fact that I had said MJ would die and Aunt May would not.
Yeah,
and neither of those happened, and so therefore I was, I was kind of, hosed at that point. I got a fair number of them right, but not nearly as many as you, sir. So with a final score of 30-20, because again, 2 points. So we had 31 questions, 2 points for a absolute right answer, 1 point if there's a tie, if we both get it right. And so it was 30-20 in favor of Uncle Todd. So I tip my cap to you, sir. Another victory under your belt, another bottle of bourbon to be had.
I appreciate that. I will accept your tipped cap. However, I do want to just point out, not a whole lot to celebrate. That still puts me at best 50%. In terms of guessing these things right.
Yes.
It is truly a question of, a case of in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king sort of thing.
Indeed.
But I will take it nonetheless.
And I will say, as we talked in our pre-production meeting, really not a lot of points of debate. I mean, these, a lot of what we kind of discussed and went real and jabroni on was pretty straightforward for the most part, and really there wasn't any kind of gray area like we've seen in past versions of doing this. So it was pretty straightforward, my friend.
Well, I take some degree of credit for that, but I can't because
okay.
I'm just saying, like, I wish I could take credit for it, but I got nothing.
All right.
I got nothing. I'm just happy. I'm just happy to get back on track, especially after just the beatings that I've taken in fantasy football and my previous Rio Jabroni. I'm just glad to get back on track.
It is interesting to note that when you lost our final the final Idiot Bowl matchup, but won this. So,
and I'm happy about that. It's much better for my ego and for my self-esteem
and for your liver.
Well, no, not really. Not really when you get right down to it.
Yes.
Well, next up, we're going to delve into another mind-bending reality twister, The Matrix Resurrections. What did you think about this one, sir?
Well, before I give you not before, but I guess to preface my comments, I am one of those fans who is bullish on all things Matrix. So I will probably sound overly optimistic or overly positive. But it's because in the context of the larger story of the series, I thought this was a very good entry. I thought the hey, my son was walking by.
I was going to say, coworker passing through.
No, I thought it was. I thought
Hey,
it was.
listen, did you not spray in the bathroom again? Did you
What's
plug
that?
up the toilet? Did you plug up the toilet again in the communal bathroom?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay, good.
Patrick might have, but not me.
Oh, every freaking day, dude. He either needs some more fiber or less fiber. I can't figure out which. Sewer man at the office gets a workout.
Yes.
Something's up with that guy. Oh,
yes.
Anyways.
No, but I thought it was a great entry. With the context of how this story was kind of inspired from Lana Wachowski's, I think shortly after her parents had passed away, she kind of came up with this concept, and I thought it, knowing that, you kind of could see where the story was going and what the story was really about, and The Matrix was really more of kind of the playground for it to all play out in, more than it being this sort of focal point or focus of the plot per se. Like there wasn't a mystery going on like there was in the first one of what the heck is going on. I really liked how there were all these callbacks to different elements of the trilogy. As simple and stupid as like that whole back and forth that Neo was having with his boss, essentially, about this, making this new. Well, so for those who haven't seen it, he's back in the Matrix. He's a video game designer, and his boss happens to be basically an incarnation of Smith. And I loved behind him, there's this bust of Smith when he got like socked in the face by Neo.
Yeah.
Where his face is all like smushed up, and it's just like sitting there right behind him while they're having this back and forth. And I just thought that was hysterical. That was
It's a bit heavy-handed, but it was funny.
It was very funny. I loved, just the use of Morpheus was different, but it was kind of an interesting concept, and treatment that, made sense within the universe of the story. I also thought it was interesting how they, showed quite a bit of the symbiotic relationship between the machines and humanity. And honestly, that leading to kind of their ability to kind of, resurrect the two of them. So they ended up truly being resurrected. I didn't think they were really going to go that route. But they actually went that route. And I thought it was just kind of an interesting note that if you think on it a little bit, the implication is between the two worlds, between the humanity and machines, they have kind of happened upon this way of creating life, and potentially stumbling upon, immortality in a way, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept. So story-wise, I thought it was really cool. Really enjoyed it being really about getting him and Trinity to kind of get back together. And then I thought it was a great ending to it with it. Throughout the whole thing, Neo seems to be like stuck in like second gear. Like he can't quite get back to the Neo we knew in the Matrix, where he was all powerful and flying around and do like he's got ability, but he doesn't have full ability, Yeah.
Did you love that moment where they're like, "Can you still fly?"
No.
And he kind of goes into the pose.
Yes.
And you're like, for a second, I'm like, "Oh, they're not going to." He's like, "Yeah, not going to happen." And I'm like, I respect that. Like that's kind of a good way to play it.
Getting old. I'm getting too old for this.
The real Danny Glover sort of moment, like Riggs. I was just waiting for him to kind of pull out like a Smith.
Yes.
I did notice much less kung fu. Like there was definitely some kung fu, and props for Keanu, because I know that I know from just watching some other features, like he does like to do as much stunt work as he can. There are limitations, though, especially as we all get up there in age. I know we spent a lot of time joking around about us being old farts, but Keanu's got a couple of years on both of us.
Oh yeah, 57.
Is he really that old?
He's 57.
I thought I was going to say like 52. I didn't think it. No. Well, it depends on what angle. I mean, but then that's no knock on Keanu. That's just like all of us. Like any of us can look good from one angle, but then all of a sudden you turn, you're like, oh dear God. So I was watching this might be in my and another thing. I haven't decided yet, but it's like the old Don Rickles joke where he'd look at a guy in the audience and be like, he's like, sir, is that your wife? Jeez.
Oh gosh.
Now I'm not saying like that's proper or acceptable these days, but that's kind of how it is with anybody. Like after you get over a certain age, like you're like, oh, I'm looking pretty good. And then you catch yourself in another angle in the mirror and you're like, oh boy. Oh, never mind.
Yep.
Never mind. Catching up with me. And that's fine. I mean, you know, there are a lot of people who do not get to the age that we're at. So it is a blessing. Don't get me wrong. I did not think Keanu was that old though. But I did notice that they gave him a power in this movie where he could essentially just, okay, Keanu, put your arms out. And that's going to push stuff away from you instead of him having to do like a lot of like the same sort of motion capture and hand-to-hand fighting. Like it's just so like he can just push stuff away from him. And I'm like, that's pretty damn smart, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm like, okay, because it plays off of like the idea that he did have like, you know, at the end of the third movie, he did become, you know, this incredibly powerful person, both in the Matrix and then out of the Matrix as well, which was never properly explained, which I contend is probably best not explained. And, but to still have like this massive power, but then also, like you say, have those moments where it's like almost like the Hulk, like Bruce Banner can't bring the Hulk out, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I appreciated those moments, and it was good. That was great. That one moment where he's like, not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cracked me up. I was like, been there, Neo. I got you. Yeah. Same if someone wanted me to take a jump shot right now, it probably ain't happening.
Well, and I really liked how, you know, some of it was a commentary on, you know, just entertainment in general with sequels and just, you know, some of the like when he was going through the loops of, you know, brainstorming and kind of working on this fourth game and just, you know, talking about all, you know, like what made the Matrix cool and just, you know, all the different ideas and kind of riffing on those, and then having the movie not really be a replication of any of the movies of the trilogy. I mean, there were callbacks to things, but it was very, you know, in a lot of ways, it was original content that was not, you know, a complete ripoff of the prior movies. Now, there's definitely a shadowing of sorts in terms of the way the story was told with the first movie, but it was told in a very different way, and it was really more kind of about, you know, Trinity's, you know, kind of awakening more than anything else. And again, that idea that it's really the two of them. I like how, Neil Patrick Harris as the analyst, you know, I like how his character explains that, like, you know, both of you, like, individually were, you know, really nothing, but when you guys came together, like, bad things would happen. You know, it's like you guys bring, and it made, you know, and it makes you think back to the prior three movies. Like, that's really interesting because it's not like that's a revelation just for this movie. You look back at those three and like, maybe that is how he was able to do all the things he was able to do, was because the two of them as a tandem, just, you know, whether it be explained as they each had some of the source code or whatever it is, you know what I mean? But it was that relationship that they had is really what brought, you know, gave him the power and brought out, you know, the strength in him and that sort of thing. And you saw it throughout the movie. Like anytime his back was up against the wall, like he's sitting in the chair and he grips, you know, really hard. And that's when the old Street Fighter Shoryuken, you know, fires off. And
Nice way to describe it. Okay.
Oh my gosh. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I've watched it a second time just to kind of, you know, see if I missed anything along the way, but I thought it was a really enjoyable entry into it. And if there isn't another Matrix movie, I think the ending was just a great one. I mean, I thought it was just very cool. The two of them kind of flying off to build, you know, to reform it or reshape it into their own vision. And that story just kind of, you use your imagination for where it goes. But I've been rambling on. How about you, sir? What were your thoughts?
All right. So here's the deal. Just a little background information, because I thought this was rather interesting. The Matrix, OG Matrix, 1999 version. If you look at the IMDb rating, it is 8.7 out of 10. And it has a Metascore of 73. So pretty highly regarded. Matrix Resurrections is a 5.8 8 stars out of 10 and has a 64 Metascore. Now, I mean, you put whatever stock in that you want to. My point being, I read through a couple of reviews that were not very complimentary. And I'll say this, like, I enjoyed the flick. However, I do understand the people who have a negative view of it. And I think it's a case where you can look at what somebody is saying and like, yeah, you totally have a point and you have every right. Like, you're not way off base. You're not just making stuff up. You don't have an axe to grind. Like, you got some legit points. And you totally have a right to feel that way. But I enjoyed it. And those two, it's one of those, I feel like it's one of those movies where those 2 points can kind of coexist, and that you can really interpret it in one of those 2 ways and fully justify it. Because it is going to be a polarizing movie, because there's people like me who look at the original Matrix and go, it's a great standalone movie. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when you put it along with the other 2, I feel it kind of lessens the impact of the first one, for reasons that I think we've talked about it in previous episodes. But part of it being, you know, the lessening of the Morpheus character, the kind of bloating of some of the storylines, and kind of how some of it gets a little too over the top and gets a little too full of itself from a philosophical standpoint, where it kind of realized, like, oh, people look at this as important now, so we can really kind of dig into this, instead of just like, hey, let's make a really fun movie that's also going to really tweak your brain a little bit. And it got a little full of itself, you know, and it lost kind of what made the original really good. I enjoyed this movie, even though there's a lot of what was in the second and third movie that kind of made me think less of the first movie in this movie, but yet I was still able to enjoy it. And part of that is just the fact that maybe I'm just older and I'm more nostalgic and whatever. Maybe I'm getting to be a big old softy. I don't know. Mm. But I did appreciate it, and I did appreciate it for the reasons that you talked about, where you're going through some of the same beats, but you're doing it in a different way, and you're putting a twist on it, and there's a lot of original content to the story, even though you're kind of ringing some of the same bells, which is, again, fine. We've talked about this in other episodes too, where hero's journey is the hero's journey. It's just different characters, and you know, a lot of these stories are the same fracking story, folks. You know, they're not reinventing the wheel. It's just how well you do it, and how well you craft the characters, and then how well you pace it and move things through it, and how well you tell the story. You know, it's neither one or the other. Like, you have to have all those things going, and then you get it. I felt like they did a good job telling the story. Yeah. And I appreciated the fact that, you know, going back afterwards and getting into some of the trivia, and the fact that Lana, is it Lana or Lana? It's Lana, isn't it? So Lana is that, you know, this was a catharsis for her, and this is where, you know, she wanted to do this after the death of her parents. Lily went the other direction. It was like, that's actually the reason I don't want to be part of this movie, and why I don't want to do it. Again, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I can understand and respect both of those points of view. Yeah. And that's the way I feel about the movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Maybe it's because of enough distance from the original movie that now I'm able to not take it quite as seriously. There's probably a lot of me being too serious about and possessive about that original movie, that when the second and third ones were not as good, that I kind of was like, let me just fight against those. I don't know what the heck noise that was.
I think you're moving along with the cat theme a little bit.
Yeah, that actually was. That's one of my cat's noises, actually. And, you know, so I get all that. I enjoyed it, though. I thought it was good. I enjoyed a lot of the callbacks. Mm-hmm. Some of it was a little bit, like some of the gaming stuff was a little too, I don't know, a little too like, hey, let's be really meta, and let's, this and that and the other, and be kind of funny. And I'm like, it was really never meant to be a funny movie, and I like trying to inject some of the humor. I felt a little bit of it was almost like, it was like a little canned laughter, like a little laugh tracky. Again, nothing that made me hate the movie, but it was like, okay. I did, in some ways, I enjoyed the fact that they talked about bullet time and how that was. I mean, and that was freaking massive when the first Matrix movie came out. And if you're of a certain age, you remember when you saw that the first time and you literally were Keanu. You're like, whoa. Because you've never seen that before, at least in a Western movie. A lot of there is a bit of controversy and a fair amount of controversy that the Wachowskis did crib or outright steal a lot from movies from Japan and the East that were doing this stuff way before, and then ripped it and then just put it in their movie, and people are like, oh my gosh, this is so revolutionary. It's like, not really. On one hand, I enjoy the fact that became kind of a plot device, a story device that the analyst could then utilize that slowdown in order to overcome Neo's powers. Yeah. On the other hand, I was like, kind of a little, I don't know. There's something about it didn't quite sit right. But again, it's what I really had a hard time separating those two. Like on one hand, okay, kind of cool. On the other hand, a little too much. But I get it. And at the end of it, there was enough positive for me personally that I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the use of that as well. And I think, especially upon a second viewing, it's interesting that, kind of going back to what I said before with Trinity being, this is kind of a story of her awakening and her, kind of, I don't know that I would call her being the seventh incarnation of the One, because it seems like a lot of the old infrastructure, let's call it, like the Architect and the Oracle and what the Matrix was, had been done away with. And this new character had kind of built this new Matrix and anticipated all of the things that Neo brought to the table. But, again, in his arrogance, didn't take into account what the other half was bringing to it, and her ability to kind of get around some of this, or even better, like what I thought was an extremely interesting, approach that they took, which made a lot of sense when I saw it play out, but just never would have guessed it would have happened, is, kind of playing off that idea that Smith and Neo are basically two sides of the same coin. And that whole standoff in the coffee shop where he comes in and he's able to overcome all this bullet time nonsense that the analyst has to basically, throw off what he's doing. Smith is, as part of this like uneasy alliance with him, I thought was kind of interesting, like they are linked in this world, but they've never ever been on the same side. You know what I mean? In any way, shape, or form. And I thought it was kind of an interesting, just kind of curveball to throw into it. Like, just when you think the heroes are kind of done in, that this other half of him that has always been, the antagonist, is kind of, because it's in his self-interest to do so, comes in and kind of gives them a little nudge to help them out.
Yeah. Although
I thought that was kind of interesting.
In some ways it makes sense. And I did appreciate the idea of that duality of the One and Smith, or not so much the One, but of Neo specifically, because Neo obviously went beyond what the capabilities of the One had previously been. So there's something about Neo as the One that was more one-ish. One plus one. I don't fracking know. More one-ish than the other ones previously. Just like Smith had managed to break out of being a program into something more, and then Neo manages to defeat Smith by for whatever. But I didn't. The one thing that kind of sits a little uneasily with me is that, oh well, they're the two sides of the same coin. But why can Smith just easily screw with the analyst when Neo can't? That was a little, it's not explained, and it doesn't have to be. And it could be the fact that, Smith is just more used to the game, and is more aware of his role in the game than Neo. So it's sort of that thing where Neo, like you said, never quite gets out of second gear for most of the movie.
Right.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. Because at one point, I think actually when they did the first bullet time thing and Doogie's moving around and Neo can't do anything, and he actually does manage to kind of move a little bit faster. Like he actually did manage to break out of it for a split second, and it was one of those moments, like almost like in Justice League. One of the few halfway decent moments was that moment when the Flash is moving around and you see Superman's eyes move.
Yeah.
Following him, and the freak out from the Flash, like, oh God, he sees me. And it was kind of like that. So maybe Neo at like full power would be able to do something about that, and Analyst kind of understands that he can't. I don't know. It seemed like a little convenient, I guess. But then again, I mean, they are working at a company that's Deus Machina, so I mean, I guess that kind of makes things okay.
Yeah.
Again, if I'm going to be okay with space magic and Star Wars, I guess I should be okay with this. I understand where you're coming from, but there's a little kind of a nit that you could pick if you want to. I'm not really inclined to, though.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I, some of it kind of goes back to, when you're talking about the reviews and stuff, I think some of it goes back to what we've said before about fans. Like, I feel like there's just no pleasing, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I commend them for putting a movie forth where they didn't, regurgitate and do, the hallway scene where he and Trinity bust into a building and just shoot up a bunch of people and, do something with a slightly different flair to it. I mean, it did not feel like that movie at all. I mean, there was some fighting, but it wasn't in the same, done in the same way or for the same reason that it was done in the first movie. And a lot of the fighting that was going on was for different reasons and was done slightly differently. The whole idea of them being able to take the analysts being able to take, humans and turn them into these, the swarm mode where they turn into these, mindless bots that start, throwing themselves out of buildings to just stop.
Oh, dude, was it just me, or is it kind of weird? Like at a certain point that like that last part in the act, like in the third act, all of a sudden it becomes a zombie movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I was like, whoa, okay, this is kind of weird. And then when they start diving out of the window, then I'm like, okay, now, okay, you've managed to take me to a place where I am uncomfortable now. Which, I mean, on one level, I was like, I really kind of appreciate the sheer cojones of going to this spot. Because, I mean, you're not just doing it in a way where it's like, oh, all, kind of very PG-ish, action movie where you don't see it. Like, no, you're actually hearing bodies like hit pavement. And it was uncomfortable to a degree as I'm watching it, but then I'm like, man, okay, you went there, right on, all right, like we are going full bore. Okay, I can respect that. I'm not exactly loving it, but okay. But that was a bit that I didn't see coming. I'm like, okay, didn't really expect an undercover zombie subplot in this, but all right, sure, why not?
So I just felt like I felt they did a good job of bringing, some original content and storytelling into the story while also, kind of finding what I felt like. I thought the whole video game thing as a way to kind of encapsulate his memories and throw him off from it being, recognize his memories and have it be a trilogy of games, I thought was, just right on, especially knowing video game culture now and that sort of thing. I thought it was a brilliant nod to that kind of world and universe. And I loved, the whole back and forth that, Neo had with Smith in the very beginning where, not talking as Neo and Smith, but as their selves, him being Neo's boss or whatever, about being forced to do a fourth, Matrix, by Warner Brothers. I just thought it was just hysterical. I mean, it's like, it's almost like, is this really the conversation that happened that led to all of this? I mean, it was just kind of an interesting nod. And so I thought that was great. And then, I also thought, rather than it just be the machines decided to, resurrect them or do something crazy with them. I thought it was a great concept to kind of bring in to play on, again, on top of what had already been established in the lore of basically this entity, this analyst figuring out or coming to the conclusion, like taking the anomaly of all anomalies and finding that if I have them stay just close enough to each other, I can actually get more power out of you and out of a lot of the other, humans plugged in than we could before, and kind of basically kind of tweaking or playing off of, the strength of their relationship to kind of, provide the power that they lacked once, a lot of minds were freed and that sort of thing. I thought was just really cool, because it's a very different take on, kind of the foundation that we're all, used to from the first, movie and that sort of thing. So yeah, those were things I enjoyed. And, unfortunately, I think, I don't know if I don't mean to say it this way, because I think you said it best. If people don't like it, they don't like it, right? I mean, I'm entitled to my opinion as well. But I do think sometimes when you have movies that have that kind of hopeful message to them, Star Wars is rife with that. You'd like to think people can be somewhat, bought into it and acknowledging of that, as opposed to just kind of crapping all over it. So,
well, see this, and it's hard for me to say this because I've spent way too much time on this podcast and in real life crapping all over George Lucas for the prequel trilogy, specifically The Phantom Menace, for which I will never forgive you for dragging me to a midnight showing of. I just had to work that in. But you do at some point have to acknowledge the artist's right to create what they want to create. Mm-hmm. Without owing, an undue amount of an undue responsibility to fans. Yes, you have a responsibility to fans. Certainly, as Kevin Smith has said, at a certain point, you are in the fan service business, whether you like it or not. However, the fans do not own the artistic vision. The person who created it does. And even though there is a certain amount of respect to be paid to the fans, it's not like they're stockholders. And that's where I think there's an issue, because I think a lot of fans see themselves as stockholders, and some see themselves as like the majority stockholder. Like they own 70% of Star Wars, so damn it, you will do what I want. And if I don't like it, then you're the most horrible human beings ever, and everything is terrible and sucks, and burn it all down. Yeah, you owe some respect to the fans. But at the end of the day, the artist has to do what they believe is best. And artists change as we go. We all change going through. Hopefully we all change as we go through life. Hopefully we're all in the process of changing and learning and becoming better people, or at least becoming different people than who we were yesterday, 20 years ago, whatever. Not to get all fracking philosophical, but I feel like I have to preface this because this is the movie that Lana Wachowski wanted to make in 2021, or 2019, wherever the production schedule began with this movie. I don't know. We're in COVID time. It's like dog years, so who knows? But this is the movie that she wanted to make. And as the same as how some people want Kevin Smith to make like Clerks and Mallrats and like the same movies that he made when he first started out. He's not making those movies now. He's doing different stuff, and he's done stuff that people were like, like he did, like, hey, let me make a horror movie. Let me make a couple horror movies. Let me make this version of Clerks. Let me make this version of a movie that, is a Kevin Smith movie, but it's not the original two people hanging out in a convenience store. This is not the original Matrix movies. Like, this is the movie that Lana Wachowski was going to make now. And I got to respect that on a certain level, the same as much as I've dogged on George Lucas for the prequel trilogy. That's the movie he wanted to make then. I didn't like it. I did not agree with how he went about doing it and all that. And that's fine. That's my opinion. And I don't think George is losing any sleep over the opinion.
You love the political thriller that was Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah, there's a great way to bring Star Wars back after what was it, 2 decades of not having Star Wars, and all of a sudden we're getting into trade alliances and tariffs. Oh yeah, that's a way to really bring the fan base back. Woo, excitement. But that was his right to make the movie, and just like George Lucas, just like Kevin Smith, because people don't associate Kevin Smith with being a very rich man, and he's not really. But the dude, his life is bought and paid for at this point. He does not really owe anybody much. He can do whatever he wants. And Lana Wachowski is playing with house money. She can kind of write her own ticket. And if she wants to make The Matrix, for a love story between Neo and Trinity, and really have that be the focus, and an unabashed love story, really. It's not. It's not even trying to put it under philosophical layers or anything that's just what it is.
Right.
If that's what she wants to make, dude, you started the whole thing, so go right ahead.
Yep.
Go on with your bad self. Yeah. And maybe it hit me at the right time. Maybe I'm the demographic. I don't know, but I enjoyed it. And I would just say, to balance that point, you can not enjoy it. You can say, I wanted to see something different. Fine. But at least acknowledge the fact that you didn't write it.
Yeah.
You didn't come up with these characters. So don't like it, but don't act like the Wachowskis owe you anything, because they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't owe you a damn thing.
Indeed.
And thus endeth my rant.
Well said.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other musings, ramblings, or ventings that need to happen?
Nah. I think I pretty much covered it all there and alienated at least half of our audience. So
I think so.
How the real Jabronis turned out on this one?
All right. So
did I repeat?
Sorry.
Did I repeat? Am I 2-0?
Unfortunately, sir, you did not.
Son of a mother.
It was a bit of a closer score. This one was 25-21. A bit of back and forth, but ultimately the man they called Tim squeaked out a victory here. So
now, wait, do we have any controversy over any of these?
Not
questions?
That I can see.
Of course, you're the one who's won, and you're the one who does all the numbers. No, everything looks perfectly fine to me.
Everything is in order.
Systems are nominal, Captain.
That's right.
Meanwhile, what's that smell of smoke? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Alrighty.
The only 2 questions that I had question marks next to, we both had the same answer to. So there wasn't really any any points of contention that I could see. So
I demand a recount.
Oh, good God. Jeez Louise.
I demand a recount. And Tim goes,
brother.
Yep, okay. And you still lost. There you go. There's your recount. Google Sheet don't lie.
Oh my gosh. So yes, sir. So we are one apiece.
All right. Well, we'll have to discuss exactly how this shakes out, whether we have crisscrossing bottles or whether we just save the shipping and say, buy your own.
Yeah. A negotiation.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Free range idiocy negotiation.
So that is the last masterclass that anybody needs right there.
Oh, man. But otherwise, I think... I think where our real and Jabroni rumors went amiss was just, rumors that kind of kept things within the realm of, repeating, the same Matrix sort of infrastructure or kind of framework.
Yeah.
Didn't exactly pan out because we saw that something new was there. What was really funny is the set of questions where we talked about maybe Lawrence Fishburne appearing or Hugo Weaving appearing was a complete push for the 2 of us. It was really funny. You got 2 wrong, then I got 2 wrong. It was really funny.
Well, so apparently Hugo Weaving, they were actually seeing if he could appear in the movie, and it didn't work out because of scheduling. So there was talks to have him in the movie. Larry Fishburne, which I love using that because that was how he was billed in Apocalypse Now, which is so absolutely weird. Like I can't imagine meeting Lawrence Fishburne and going, Larry. I cannot, like, I feel like his stare would just melt me. I would burst into flames or something. It'd be like me meeting Edward James Olmos and calling him Eddie, having never met him before. Like I know I would get like the full 100% Admiral stare down, and I would just be weeping in a corner, a broken man.
Yes.
But when asked, Mr. Fishburne said, well, you'll have to ask Lana about that because I don't know. I don't have an answer. So I don't know if they never reached out to him whatsoever or what the thought was. And I can see where you might have a little bit more license to bring in Hugo Weaving than you would Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
I can't really give a good reason for that, but I feel like because of the way that they treated Smith as like co-equal with Neo, there's a bit more room there to play around with that. Whereas Morpheus kind of in the way that they treated him in the second and third movie really was a side character and was almost like a third tier character compared to, you know, I mean, you have Neo and Trinity and Smith kind of at the top. Analyst, Analyst was almost like a second tier character, even though he was kind of the big bad.
Yeah, he was the primary antagonist. I mean,
yeah, he kind of wandered between first tier and second tier characters depending on where he was in the movie.
Right.
And then you kind of have Bugs and, was kind of in that second tier. And Morpheus, an argument can be made where he was not even in that second tier. I mean, I can see where that would work out. But again,
I think, when I watched the movie the second time, I mean, most of the impact of the Morpheus character is really in the beginning of the movie. And it really has to do more with him being leveraged as the tool to kind of really get Neo to wake up.
Yes.
Which is exactly what he was in the first movie. Like that was where he served the greatest purpose was, seeking out the One and getting the One to wake up and realize who he is.
Yeah. But he that influence kind of did carry through the movie because then of course the rescue of Morpheus really was what brought Neo to that point. So I mean, he was still a main fixture in that thing where really by the time you get midway through the second act of this movie, like halfway through the movie,
well, exactly, yeah,
Morpheus is just he's just a guy. He's just another dude with fancy sunglasses, and that's it.
Right, but to your point, the Smith character, like you said, has a tighter coupling to Neo and still has relevancy in terms of the story.
Yeah, but in somewhat in the same way as the Analyst, like he disappears for a good portion of the movie. Like you almost forget Smith is there for like kind of that, like the third quarter of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's just nowhere to be found. Like you don't even hear from him. It's like, well, did they just forget about him?
Before I forget. How funny was the disheveled Merovingian?
Oh, that was great. Oh my gosh.
Basically is just talking absolute gibberish and nonsense, moaning like it's almost like he's like channeling every person from, like let's say, I mean, I don't mean to say it this way, but anyone who's anti-tech, right? I mean, he's just like channeling all of this vitriol.
Well, you know who he's really channeling? Gary Busey in real life. Like that's
Mr. Joshua,
like Gary Busey now. That's who the Merovingian, just with a beard and everything. And I didn't realize who it was at first. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's him! Nice. And what they call him, like marriage or something like that, like
Merv?
Or something. Yeah, they had a nickname for him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how far you've fallen! Like no one would have dared have you had a nickname for you before. You were the Merovingian. Like referred to as like you had a title.
Yeah.
And now you're just, that crazy dude. That crazy old coot. How the mighty have fallen.
That was fantastic.
And he did manage to get back to there was a mention in the gibberish of like that moment when in the second movie, I think it was, where he was talking about, I loved speaking French. It's like wiping your ass with silk.
Yes.
And he managed to reference that in the gibberish. And I was just like, you know what? I'm all good with this movie right now. Like, okay, you just bumped it up for me right there. That's all it takes. You reference some stupid joke that I remember from like 18 years ago, and I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, funny. You've got me friggin' nailed so easily. It's pathetic.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Only other thing I'll say is I think the rumors we were looking at, we were a little, kind of close with what they were going to do with Trinity. I think we were kind of on that, on that wavelength with, her being the one, or it being kind of about her and maybe Neo being a guide for her. But clearly, story went in a slightly different direction, but kind of along those lines a little bit. So
yeah.
So we weren't completely out in left field, but more like shallow left.
I don't know. There were definitely moments when, if you want to talk about left field, we were definitely in Manny Ramirez territory a couple times where it's like, we're not out staring at butterflies, but we're damn close.
Indeed.
Damn close.
Indeed.
And by the way, did you also notice, I didn't realize this, probably because I had no idea what the dude looked for. Chad, Trinity's husband in the flick.
Oh, I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Is Chad Stahelski? I believe that's how his name is pronounced. Who is Neo's Keanu Reeves' former stunt double and a stunt coordinator from the original Matrix trilogy, and also the writer and director of the John Wick movies.
Very nice.
And originally, John Wick 4 and The Matrix 4 were both supposed to come out almost simultaneously. Like that was the OG like release dates.
Oh, really?
So you would have had Neo up against John Wick.
Interesting.
Glad it didn't happen, because the funny thing is, like, I would have been looking more forward to John Wick 4 than Matrix 4.
I still got to watch John Wick.
Oh, dude, let me tell you, you're not going to get any of the philosophical discussions that you get about the Matrix, but man, as far as like bang for your buck,
mm-hmm.
and as far as consistency, and I would actually say that John Wick, the three John Wick movies, put them up against the three Matrix movies. There is a lot more consistency and a lot more building of the world that is kind of in a linear and logical progression for the John Wick movies than there was for the Matrix movies.
Okay.
And that's why I can kind of appreciate how well the original Matrix movie was, and then I'm kind of like, and I'll tolerate the other two. Whereas something like John Wick, it's like, yeah, it's a solid trilogy. Like none of them are gonna rank up there with like the Matrix in terms of like cinematic achievement.
Yeah.
But as far as like, man, really consistent and just kind of well constructed for what they are, kind of tough to beat them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I give you the highest recommendation to watch the John Wick movies. Oh my gosh, they're so much fun.
All right.
So much fun.
All right.
And especially just for like just some of the the actors who come up in it, and just some of the moments are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous and wonderful and fun.
Nice.
And fun in the way that like there's people getting wasted everywhere, but yet no cops showing up, which is, again, it's like Grand Theft Auto. As long as you do it and you get away, the cops never find you, apparently, in John Wick world. I don't even know if the police exist in John Wick, honestly, because I can't even remember seeing even like blue lights anywhere, and yet there's like thousands of bullets being shot everywhere across these cities, and nothing happens.
And another thing.
That is a topic for another podcast, another day. Right now, what you got for In Another Thing?
Well, we kind of already touched on it during the Week in Geek. Again, this wonderful family gift we got at Christmas, a Obsessed with Star Wars, Test Your Knowledge of a Galaxy Far, Far Away by Benjamin Harper. 2,500 questions that will humble you. Oh, before I forget.
Make you humble.
Going back to the Merovingian, did you notice at the end when before he stormed off in his angry state, he did the old
oh yeah.
And I'm like, Shiki.
You better watch out. Sheik will suplex and put him in the camel clutch, make him humble.
Oh my gosh. So anyways, when I said humble, it made me think of that. So, but yes, we will be incorporating this into the Week in Geek as just a playful contest. Probably no bourbon on the line because Uncle Todd knows the man they call Tim is a mastery of Star Wars.
No, because
knowledge.
you have the answers right in front of you.
No, what I will do is I'll have my younger son pick out the 5 questions, write the numbers down. I will read them. We'll do our answers, and then I'll check the answer key.
You're going to get this book off Audible, and you're going to be listening to it in your sleep. It's going to be like subliminal learning.
Oh, man. Very paranoid individual, aren't you?
Yeah, what have you heard?
What's it to you? Anyways, that is my end. Another thing, if you're interested in testing yourself in the Star Wars trivia space, there is some deep cuts in this one, apparently to the tune of nostril count of aliens that we may not have actually seen in the movies. So do check it out and enjoy with friends and family. You, sir, what is your end? Another thing.
A little bit something different here. I am a peruser of Reddit, and as we talked about in a previous episode, like the entire thing of people on sites like Reddit or the interwebs in general, usually just crapping all over new music and then going back and telling you how fantastic Led Zeppelin was and that you don't understand, or whatever their group du jour from years gone by is, and you're just too dim to understand the greatness of this. Someone actually posted something positive. They're like, hey, as someone who is older, I think a guy said he was like in his 40s, and who's classic rock kind of era guy, and he says, I haven't found a lot of new rock, and that is one of my complaints I would say about just where music is in general in terms of the zeitgeist these days is rock is not really huge in terms of whatever mass media. And I was going to say the radio, but who the crap listens to the radio anymore? Guys our age. Which actually brings me to another thing. Like there's a station, like the station out here back east, which it does the 24/7 Christmas music.
Yeah.
Up until Christmas, and then their normal thing is like the best from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and today. I'm like, it's been 20 years since the 90s got over. Like literally your like today in quote marks is just as long as like your classics section. Like you got to come up with a new tagline.
The aughts doesn't quite, ring.
So bad. Anyways, and this person led me to this band, and I listened to the album today while I was working out at the gym, which again is kind of my new test bed for music, especially if it's music that's got a little bit of edge to it, a little grit under its fingernails.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's good when you're lifting heavy things to have something that motivates you. You don't want to be relaxed when you're squatting a couple 100 pounds or something. You really want your nerve endings to be kind of like a little perked up at that point. But the band is called Turnstile, and the album is called Glow On, and it was just released this year.
Nice.
I found it on Apple Music. I'm sure you can find it in various different places. I'll link to their website. I believe they're on Bandcamp, and I will just say this. If you have an opportunity, if you don't already pay for a streaming service or whatever, or even if you do, if you really want to support a band or a musician or an artist and they're on Bandcamp, always buy off of Bandcamp. Always, 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 always. As someone who had an album it still is out there, but had albums that, were streaming on, Apple Music, Spotify, all these different platforms that we could download it as well. Bandcamp is the highest percentage that an artist can earn off of selling their music digitally. It is far and away the highest percentage. So if you really want to support a band, and I would say this, even if you do have something that's streaming, go buy the album. If you really like it, I know that you can stream it and all that. They're getting paid pennies, if that. They're lucky actually if they're getting paid pennies. In case you know what Spotify's pay structure is. Oh my gosh. It's like, hey, you got 1 million plays. Here's a quarter. Not a quarter of a million. Here's a literal quarter.
Yeah.
And So buy the album off of Bandcamp and then still stream it and really help artists out. But anyways, really good album. Really good album. And it kind of has some elements of like there's a Jane's Addiction sort of vibe to this in some like vocally and there was some of the guitar that kind of reminded me of that. There was also a little bit of Stone Temple Pilots vibe and like I can definitely tell where there's some influences coming in. Mm-hmm. But overall, just a really solid album. And I really enjoyed it. It's something that I can definitely see myself listening to at different times and not just when I'm working out, but I could see myself, putting this on, driving around, stuff like that. And going to have to go back and look up the rest of the discography for these folks and maybe dive a little into that. But I would say Glow On, give it a listen. If you're just looking for hard rock, this might be your thing right now. This might be your thing. Made right here in the 21st century. No going back to the 70s required.
The 70s, 80s, 90s, and today.
Oh, gosh.
Not the aughts and not the tens.
In other words, music that you don't have to really listen to listen to.
Well, that sounds cool, man. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, by all means. By all means. And now we've, of course, come to the end of our time here, folks. Thank you for the members of the Free Range Idiocy congregation who have gathered together. Not really gathered together because we gathered together separately to all listen to this together apart. And if that makes no sense to you, it makes no sense to me, and I just said it. So we're all together apart, individually, together, in understanding, but not really understanding.
Maybe.
Sort of. Exactly. Somewhat. I swear to God, I'm sober. I really... I'm really tired, but I'm sober. Honest.
Gosh.
But thank you once again for gathering, for listening. We really appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to our humble little podcast here on the interwebs, by God, what's stopping you? It's only a click away. Go to freerangeidiocy.com and you can find all of our episodes. You can actually subscribe there through Podbean. However, if you like getting your podcasts through other ways, if you like going through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, whatever it might be, go ahead and search for Free Range Idiocy and we will hook you up there. We're at a bunch of different places. If we're not on there, feel free to send an email to tim@freerangeidiocy.com and we'll try and get our podcast onto the purveyor of your choice. And if you want some extra points in the Free Range Idiocy MLM congregation, you want to level up. You want to be more than just a downline manager. You want to get up to like whatever. I was watching Lula Rich the other day. Watched the first couple episodes of that. Oh my gosh, that's some crazy town stuff. But anyway, you want to level up. Go ahead and follow us on the social medias as well. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we are on Instagram. All of those are at Free Range Idiocy. Again, the email address, tim@freerangeidiocy.com. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, or even offers of outright bribery, we are not above or below listening to any of those. So feel free to send those over to Tim. He'll get back to you forthwith, if not sooner. And now we've come to that time of the show, that blessed time of the show when I stop flapping my gums. Well, at least until I interrupt Tim again. And but I like to do that after I ask the second most important question that has ever been asked by humankind. The first, of course, being what is hip. The second being, the hell did we learn this show?
We've learned the following, my friend.
Alrighty.
We have learned that the man they call Tim turns into the old man from A Christmas Story when he has to put a headlight bulb into his Honda Fit.
Do you have any of your knuckles left? Do you have any skin left on your knuckles whatsoever?
A little bit, but not a whole lot. I didn't realize I was going to have to perform, tauntaun surgery on the car.
Did it smell bad too?
Kind of. Oh my gosh. We have also learned, the Idiot Bowl has shown us the man they call Tim is the idiot of the 2021 campaign. I don't know if that's something I should put on a resume or not, but
sure, go right ahead. And it is, you know what? I got to say, if I have to be done with fantasy football, and I am done with fantasy football, I'm glad that I could go out losing to you in the most idiotic way possible with Dalvin Cook flipping me the bird one last time. It is note perfect, ladies and gentlemen. It is note perfect.
It is.
It is a swan song it's like Mick Foley losing every single time he has like, this is my final match, and he always loses. That's exactly me. It's perfect. Wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, thank you, my friend. It has been a pleasure contesting 3 different games with you, and I look forward to next season when you will be voraciously looking forward to joining us for another season.
No, because this has been sheer hell for me, so I appreciate it, but I am done. I am done.
We've also learned that apparently in Star Wars there was an alien called the Ogre. Apparently it has 4 nostrils, and apparently there was a Jedi Master who comes from that race. So we will learn more in future episodes when we get into the Obsessed with Star Wars trivia book.
You son of a Gundark, you.
I tells you. And we have also learned Spider-Man No Way Home and Matrix Resurrections, two very good stories, very good movies. Do check them out. Don't listen to all the negative reviews over there. It's good stuff. And all around, both Uncle Todd and the man they call Tim walk away a bourbon bottle each from these 2 different contests. With all that being said, we do thank you again for your support for the downloads. And as we like to wrap things up, be safe, be healthy, be kind, be good to one another. And 2022 is starting, and, we got to start padding the old budget. So if you would please hit the lights on the way out.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
Damn!
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
Do it.
Well. How the hell are you?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
Depends on how you look at it. I mean, it's not like anybody's putting a gun to their head now, is it?
That's what I love about Wyatt. He can talk himself into anything. Oh, Johnny, I apologize. I forgot you were there. You may go now.
So I don't know if I'm just losing sensation here, but once again, it was getting cold out here on the porch as I'm recording. I can't feel my feet anymore. Is that... Should I be concerned about that?
I think so. Good Lord, man.
Like the pins and needles feeling even went away.
Dear.
I didn't want to panic at all, but I'm scared to stand up.
Now get the hell out of here!